But each step that you took towards her, well, you took each one alone. And every time you said, my God, how is it up there on that phone? Well, I've been waiting undefeated just to hear you say that I'm not needed. I said I was an honest man. You said I wasn't at all, but I wanted it. Well, I think you're just afraid of the fall, but you won't be there at all. No, you won't be there. And oh, my God, I hope you're falling apart. My God, I hope you're falling and you. Oh, my God, I hope you're falling apart. It's gonna be the start of what you are. Well, I remember when you said that you hate everything I do. You didn't have a reason, then wish I'd given one to you. And then you would say, oh my God, I couldn't know what you've been through. Well, I've been waiting undefeated just to hear you say that I'm not needed. I said I was an honest man. You said I wasn't at all, but I wanted it. Well, I think you're just afraid of the fall, but you won't be there at all, or you won't be there. And oh my God, I hope you're falling apart. My God, I hope you're falling and you. Oh my God, I hope you're falling apart. It's gonna be the start of what you are. I said I was an honest man. You said I wasn't at all, but I wanted it. Well, I think you're just afraid of the fall, but you won't be there at all, or you won't be there. And oh my God, I hope you're falling apart. My God, I hope you're falling and you. Oh my God, I hope you're falling apart. It's gonna be the start of what you. Oh my God, I hope you're falling apart. My God, I hope you're falling and you. Oh my God, I hope you're falling apart. It's gonna be the start of what you are.
Take notes, family.
I feel my face tonight. Sick of my eyes stuck on the ground. I want my mind erased tonight. Oh, oh. Blurry faces, mindless sound. 'Cause I'm always overthinking. I can't take this life anymore. And I feel my chest keep sinking. And I just need to breathe. 'Cause I can't stop the pain. And you are making it any easier. make it in. Long nights, wishing you were by my side, but I hold tight, cause I want something for life. And I don't wanna rush you, girl, don't wanna show my cards, don't wanna break no hearts. Late night, I'm up, you calling, ask me what I've been holding on to. Baby, believe I'm all in, I'm going out my way for you, but we should take it easy.
You are legendary.
Cause baby got me feeling like I lose control. We should take it easy, cause now that we're in it, I wanna take my time, take it easy. We should take it easy, slow down for a minute, cause baby got me feeling like I lose control. We should take it easy, cause now that we're in it, I wanna take my time, take it easy. Colorblind, got me falling by the wayside. Your eyes got me guessing what it feels like. Don't wanna chase the highs, don't wanna go too far, don't wanna break no heart. Nah, late night, I'm up, you calling, ask me what I've been holding on to. Baby, believe I'm all in, I'm going out my way for you, but we should take it easy, slow down for a minute, cause baby got me feeling like I lose control. We should take it easy, cause now that we're in it, I wanna take my time, take it easy. We should take it easy, slow down for a minute, cause baby got me feeling like I lose control. We should take it easy, cause now that we're in it, I wanna take my time, take it easy. Take me to another high, far away from here, make my body come to life. I wanna disappear, I need to learn to breathe somewhere. Maybe I could find my peace out there. Wanna run away to you, I'm looking for a safe escape. Saving grace
Hello? Is this thing on, dude? Yo! What's up, Chad? You can't hear me? Yes, you can. What's up, everybody? Welcome. Welcome. Woo! Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome to Trader Spotlight Season 3. How's everybody doing tonight? How was your trades today? Type 1s in chat if you're green today, 2s if you're red, 0s if you didn't trade. Tonight we are having on Diesel Trades from House of Stacks and Skunk Gang with Palmer, Maple Stacks. Alrighty, you guys know we got House of Stacks in the chat tonight. Yes, sir. Nice, lots of ones. Good job today, everybody. Good job today. Diesel, yes, sir. We're going to go over lots of that tonight, okay? Let me show you where to find the man on Twitter, in case, in case you haven't followed them yet. And you can stop looking at my face now, okay? Here he is, Diesel Trades, out on Twitter. Okay, DEEZEL Trades. All right, hit him with the follow. Excellent trader. We're going to dive into his strategies tonight, how he found trading, intraday techniques, tips and tricks, and more, as well as cover a little bit of his journey from $1,000 to $12,000 in a month. How the heck did he do it, dude? What? Dr. Diesel. That's right. That's right. Okay, one more thing, guys, before I bring him on the show. If you guys do have any questions throughout the show tonight, just type it up in chat, okay? Type it up, and then at either myself or Diesel Trades, and we will see it in the chat, okay? And yeah, without any further ado, I'm gonna flip on my my Trader Spotlight music, which I believe is this cow. Yeah, I do believe it is this cow. It is indeed the cow. Okay, guys, I'm gonna pop in now, and let's get down to business, shall we? Okay. So get a drink, get a snack, and most importantly, get a pen and paper. Okay, people, because this is gonna get hot and heavy real quick. Mr. Diesel, what's going on, sir?
What's up, brother?
How you doing?
Good. About you?
Great, man. Awesome day today. Great weekend. I feel refreshed. How's your weekend and trading day today?
Weekend was good, man. Sunny,
Awesome.
hot.
Yep.
Sat my ass around all day and did nothing and drank beer.
Perfect. As one
Had
does.
a good day today.
Nice.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, that's the whole point of this life, right?
Right? Financial freedom. And I think people lose sight of that sometimes. So.
Well, I mean, that's the point in the end. Is it's the freedom. I mean, you can have all the money in the world, but time is more valuable than money is, my man.
Oh, 100%. Can't agree with you more. And good day for you today?
Yeah. Good day. It was
Awesome.
took a quick little pop off the bell and then ran it all the way down. Had some fun with Spy today.
Oh, you played Spy today. Let's go. Some 0 DTEs, perhaps?
Yeah. I was a little bored, and Meta was running a little weird the last couple of days, so I took a quick pop to pre-market high off the bell, and
Right.
and then had some fun in the House of Stacks, running Spy into the ground.
Let's go.
I actually missed my complete call out. I called 373, and I missed it by 31 cents.
Wow. Okay.
Or
Got you.
383 or whatever the hell it was.
Got you. Okay. And I know you're a Facebook main. How has it been since the name change to Meta? Has it played any different? Have people forgotten how to find the stock, or what are your thoughts on that, if anything?
You know, the first day they did, a lot of people forgot it was happening, even though we reminded them a million times.
Right.
But it's been running kind of weird since the name change. And I mean, the day of the name change, I actually I was on the phone with Webull for a good 2 hours because they wouldn't let me trade it.
Right.
And the bitch of it was I overnighted puts.
Oh, so you just had to hold or what?
So I mean, it almost wrecked me. It ran at the bell, which
Right.
I had a sneaky suspicion it was gonna. I was green right at the bell, and then it shot up, and I was freaking out because it wouldn't let me sell it. It wouldn't let me do anything.
Wow.
So I literally, I mean, I went old school trader on him, man. I finally, after waiting on hold for an hour and a half and then watching it drive back down, I ended up in the money with it. And I kept them on the phone to sell my orders for me. It felt like it was 1974.
That's amazing. Classic trading. Let's go.
Yeah, it was definitely different.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, so yeah, awesome. We're gonna dive into that a little bit more. How we normally start these things, it's been a while for me. I haven't done Trader Spotlight in some time. I took a nice little break while I was moving and all that good stuff. So welcome back. This is Trader Spotlight, Season 3, Episode 1 of 8 episodes this season with Diesel Trades. Thanks for coming on the show. How we normally start these things off is for you to dive a little bit, if you're comfortable, you dive a little bit into your background, kind of how you found stocks and when it really started to take off for you.
Yeah, sure. I'm kind of a quick synopsis. I'm one of the resident old men in the house and in the Skunk King room. So I'm 43 years old. I've spent the better part of the last 20, 25 years in the financial world. I was a mortgage guy for a very long time, almost 20 years. Got onto the retail banking side of things, and retail banking side. I used to run branches, so I actually had a customer at my old company that I used to work for. This would have been about 15 years ago now. That this kid used to come into my branch like every few weeks with literally a brown paper sack full of cash.
What?
And he would dump it on the counter and make deposits. And, I had always just assumed, oh yeah, this kid's got to be a drug dealer or something. I mean, when I say kid, he's 18, 19 years old.
Right.
Finally one day I just asked him, what the hell do you do for a living, dude? And he's like, I'm a day trader. I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is a day trader? I didn't know what it was, but I wanted to know because this kid's dumping 15, 20 grand a week into a bank account.
Right.
So, but back then, like I said, 15, 16 years ago, the internet isn't like it was now. You couldn't just search how to be a day trader and find all the info you find nowadays.
Right.
And I wasn't about to go pay some college to teach me how to do it and do it the wrong way. So it just kind of fell by the wayside. And then, I don't know, probably just under 2 years ago, pretty much around COVID, and I started hearing all this crap about GameStop and all this other stuff. And so I started digging into it, and lo and behold, I started finding these guys trading live on YouTube and other places. And I had a lot more time in my hands, so it just kind of intrigued me. So I just started digging in, and one thing led to another. And I've got 5 kids, and my son, who actually he just turned 15, so he's 12 and a half years old at the time, and he's laughing at me because I'm asking him what the hell a Discord is. And so he's showing me Discord, and then I found Atlas.
Gotcha.
And it's kind of grown from there.
Awesome, man. And so when you started out, were you right away in options, or you kind of start out with commons and swing trading, or how did you start out and then develop into day trading options?
So like everybody else in the godforsaken trading world, I started with Robinhood.
Nice.
And small caps. The guy that I had originally found was from, like I said, he traded on YouTube or something like that, and I would follow this guy every morning before I would go to work.
Right.
And just didn't know what the hell I was doing. Right, buy here, sell here, win a little, lose a lot, win a little bit more, lose a lot more, kind of thing. Found Atlas. Kind of went through that realm. So I did small caps for realistically probably just over a year. I've been in options now. Whenever Palmer opened his room is when I jumped into options. I messaged him privately, and Palmer was somebody from the Atlas realm that really kind of stuck out to me as somebody that not only didn't get the credit he deserved, but I joke around about it. I used to watch this guy, and out of nowhere, and this was back when everybody was in the Momo room, right? You had Maple, you had Palmer, you had Trey, you had Rodessa, you had Trog. Everybody was in there, and everybody else would be calling all this stuff out. And then here come this Palmer guy, and he would just call out this random zone, and I would watch in just utter belief, and I would tell my girlfriend at the time, this guy's predicting the future. How the hell does he know it's coming back to this? And it comes back to it every time, and then he makes money. What the hell? So, once, so I took a good liking to Palmer and the way he kind of figured things out. So I messaged him one day when I was still in Atlas, and he got back to me, and, just kind of gave me a couple of words of wisdom or whatever. And then when he opened up his room, his Discord, he had mentioned that it was going to be, strictly options, and options was something that I was always kind of curious about, but never really wanted to get into. So I messaged him and I said, look, I'm really not looking for call outs or anything like that. I'm looking for EDU. I'm looking for, a way to really kind of figure this thing out. I want to do this for a living. I really enjoy it, so on. And he's like, well, if you want to learn it, this is the place to come. So, give it a shot. If you don't like it, you leave. No harm, no foul. So I literally joined up within the first few days that was open, and I've been there ever since. And so I want to say, well, let's see, what is it now? We're in June, so I want to say it might even be a year now. We're pretty close to it, 10 months maybe.
Gotcha. Okay.
On the option side.
No, that's awesome. And so, okay, so yeah, you're at the point where you're in these new trading groups. How long did it take for you to actually become profitable? And did you ever blow up any accounts, or have a big losing streak, stuff like that?
All the above, absolutely. So I was trading in a circle for quite a while, where I'd make a couple, maybe $100, then I'd lose 60, then I'd lose 80 the next day, and just like everybody else, really. I mean, learning the game, just trading in a circle, like I said, and one thing that stood out is, I had multiple. I like to consider it. I had multiple mentors, and I still do. Palmer and Maple, easily the most influential for me. However, I was kind of trading in the circle, and I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. And my goal was, I wanted to get to it where I was making $100 a day. Well, I could never get over like 50 or 60. And I couldn't figure out why. Of course, I wasn't holding long enough, or I was, gains were getting wiped out by bigger losers and things like that. And, supply and demand was something that just, I wanted to learn it. And I had watched Carmine videos and a bunch of these other guys' videos all over YouTube. And to me, they were speaking Chinese. I can't say they were speaking Greek because I am Greek.
Oh, okay.
So to me, they were speaking Chinese. I just didn't get it. Right. And one day I come across this video that Lunar had posted. Mm-hmm. And I was never the biggest on TA and stuff like that, and I'm sitting there watching this video that Lunar posted, and literally I paused it like, I don't know, 6 or 7 minutes into the video, and I just started drawing supply and demand zones, and like that on the flip of a dime, it all just clicked.
Right.
And so I started drawing all these zones, and I started posting all these charts in Palmer's room, and sure as shit, of course, I wasn't taking any of these zones or these trades, but every time I go back and I look at these zones, they're all getting hit, and it's reversing, and I'm like, son of a bitch, what the hell's the matter with me, So
right.
it finally one day, I finally said, screw it. You know what? I've never been one that I don't like taking other people's call outs. Even in Palmer's room, like I said early on, I wasn't big on taking even his calls, even though, Palmer's a freaking savant, dude. The guy's never wrong, mm-hmm. which is just crazy in its own right. But I was determined to figure it out on my own, right? So finally one day I said, you know what? Enough. Quit being a bitch. Take your zone. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And boom, from that point forward, I've just been running. I realized that was a big psychological issue for me. Was I didn't trust myself. Which, don't get me wrong, I hadn't earned the right to trust myself yet. But
Right.
you're not going to earn the right if you don't take the chance and try it. So it worked, and there was a group of us within the skunk room that we were all kind of dabbling in supply and demand. So we all started bouncing stuff off of each other, and that was it. So from there it just kind of escalated, and the next step up for me was, okay, great, your zones are working. You've got a good idea of where this stuff's going to go. So the next step, again, don't be a bitch. Start scaling in a little bit more. And, I wasn't looking to do 100 contracts at a scaling or anything, but instead of doing 1, 2, or 3 contracts, well, I'm going to up it to 5. And then I'm going to up it to 10. And I just, kept kind of going gradually at my own pace with it. And it really just kind of took off from there. Got you.
And so now, obviously, you have great success trading, very consistent. Is this what you do full time now, or do you have some sort of side business or full time job that you attend to as well?
So technically, as of May 27th, I'm a full time trader.
Let's go.
Okay. I was doing all of this while I was still full time with the banks.
Wow.
So I would be sitting in my office running a multi-million-dollar branch while trading at the same time, which was quite interesting in its own right, I'll say.
Right.
But yeah, as of technically my last day was supposed to be this past Friday, with the way that I gave my notice, but in the banking world, they don't technically let you feasibly stay because they're afraid you're going to take like their clientele and whatever with you when you leave. Okay. So I actually gave them 4 weeks notice, and they let me work out about a week and a half of it. And they said, okay, you know what? You can go ahead and go home now. And we're just going to go ahead and pay you for the rest of the time that you did. So yeah, I've basically been getting paid for free for the last 4 weeks plus trading.
Well, that's all right.
So I'll take it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So that's an interesting topic. Just the working and trading simultaneously. And I'm sure there's lots of people in chat who are in this position who are trying to day trade while they are working. How was that for you? How did you manage to do it? What were some challenges, and how did you really focus on your trades?
So it's a double-edged sword, man. I got burned a lot by not using some basic fundamentals. And with that, I mean, so I'm not, those that know me and my trading style, I'm not the biggest user of stop losses. I don't actually use stop losses.
Gotcha.
I don't set hard stops or anything like that. And on quite a few occasions, that's come back to bite me in the ass because I'd be sitting at work. I'd turn around and I would get stuck with a client or a customer walking through the door while I'm in the middle of a trade.
Right. And
next thing you know, I don't cut it because I'm up, or I'm waiting for something to happen, and I look back, 3 minutes later, and as I casually switch over screens, and boom, I'm down $500, and it's like, oh shit, and cut it real quick, and so it's not easy. Luckily for me, I was the boss, so I could kind of delegate who was doing what, when, where, and why to make sure that my biggest point of the day was I had to be free at the opening bell. I'm a big opening bell player. The bulk of my day is done by, realistically, usually my day is done by 10:30 in most cases, Eastern time. So okay. I'm a big opening bell player. It's something I took over from the Palmer Discord, and that's where the bulk of my money is made. Actually, when I had looked at it through P&Ls and the little lovely software you pay for and all that crap, mm-hmm. I want to say 90% of my gains actually happened within the first 17 minutes of the opening bell.
Wow. Okay.
I take some longer stuff and some overnight stuff too, not on purpose, but the bulk of my money is made early on. Hasn't been that way the last week or so, but normally that's the case. But so it's, I was able to, again, being the boss was a big factor in that. So I was able to kind of do what I wanted, but it's not easy. If you're somebody who works and you're trying to get this done, you're basically working 2 full-time jobs at that point in order to be able to succeed at this. So you have to be smart as far as, if you're looking to get into a trade and you've got a meeting or a conference call or whatever to get on or get into within 5 minutes, then don't take the damn trade.
Right.
If I was able to go back in time 2 years, even though it was preached to me ungodly amounts by multiple people, is you have to understand that you have to protect your capital. Protecting your capital will help you succeed a lot more than making capital. And I think that's something that a lot of new people don't understand or miss.
Right.
It's you have to protect your capital, and that's something that I was not good at early on, and it made it that much harder when you're working full time. It's hard to juggle it, but just like you with your work, you find time. You kind of, most people when they go into work, they have a general outline of what their day is going to look like.
Right.
Hopefully anyway. So you can try to trade around that, but at the end of the day, you can't force those trades.
Yeah, it's tough, especially when you have like a specific niche where that's your edge. Your edge takes place in a time frame, like you said. Yours is off the open. Mine's very similar. So if you don't have that time, it can get very, very tough.
Well, and the other aspect of that too, like, so, somebody like myself, as I'm an S&D trader and I'm also a zone to zone trader. So, the zone to zone trader aspect of it sucks, right? Because you're sitting there like me, I'm sitting in my office, I'm with a client leaves, I immediately swap screens back over to see what's going on with my ticker. Mm-hmm. And then I realize that it has already entered my zone and left.
Oh yeah.
Now discipline comes into play, and the average newbie is gonna, it's okay, I'll wait for a little pullback and then I'll jump in, not realizing you've already missed 70% of the move.
Right.
Whereas and that's something that took time as well. Discipline is no joke when it comes to trading. If you don't have discipline, you're gonna fail, and you're gonna fail miserably.
No, definitely.
And that's just the truth.
Yeah. No, you nailed it for sure. So let's change gears a little bit to more specific details about your trading strategy. And I would love for you to go into some depth about what your strategy was when you were trading with that 1.5K that you started with, and how you successfully turned that into 12K in it was like a month, right?
Yep.
That's
So
crazy.
the actual dates I can tell you was like May 4th or 5th is when I started, I believe it was.
Okay.
So the whole general premise of it was, so I've, over the last, really this year, so starting in January till now, I've had some killer months. I've had some big days, and I've had some big lost days. So I knew going in, when May started, I knew going in that my goal was to be completely full-time by June 1st. So, although I've been fairly successful this year, and really since October, I've been successful, but I knew I still had some tendencies of breaking my own rules. Mm-hmm. And, not cutting losses and things of that nature. So, going into May, I decided that I was going to reset my account to $1,500, with basically the thought process of, it's time for you to hone in your rules. It's time for you to hone in your discipline, knowing that you're going to go into June 1st and this is how you're going to provide for your family.
Right.
So, that was the general concept behind it. Wired money in on May 1st or May 2nd or something like that. And it didn't end up getting available till like the 4th or the because again, Weeble's Weeble. And just kind of went from there. And it's again, for me, I set a specific set of rules. I have very specific rules when it comes to my trading, that I like to think that, I don't know, 99% of the time I follow those rules. Mm-hmm. But so again, I'm an S&D trader. However, I've taken my strategy is a lot realistically, like any other successful trader, my strategy is my own. It's actually a mixture of, it's a mixture of what Maple does. It's a mixture of what Palmer does. It's a mixture of what Rodessa does, and it's a mixture of what Lunar did do. Lunar doesn't do it as much anymore, to my understanding. Last time I talked with him, but essentially, so I use S&D as my main base, right? So I draw my supply and demand strictly off the 1 hour. I do not zoom into the 30 or the 15 or any other time frame. My zones are drawn a little bit differently than most. Whereas, like when you watch the Carmine videos or even Lunar's video, they talk about technically the supply and demand zone is formed from the candle before the big move. I don't do that. I use the wicks. Wicks and only wicks. The only time I will use a body of a candle is when I don't have any other option. And usually if there's a body there, I will usually look left a little bit farther to find where that body came from and try to find the wick instead. And it's kind of, obviously this has evolved over time. So I use supply and demand zones. However, when you look at my charts, as a lot of my buddies in a couple of other rooms like to say, their eyes are burning because I've got realistically, at any given day, if you'll see, let's say price action's at $100.
Right.
Well, I'm looking at the zones. Before I would have it set where I would have a minimum of realistically probably 3 zones above that price action and 3 zones below that price action.
Okay.
And so essentially what I've done with my S&D is I'll mark ungodly amounts of 1 hour demand zones and supply zones, and they almost end up serving as support and resistance zones. And then from there, in between those zones. So again, I'm a zone to zone trader. My first rule, which I actually got from another trading buddy of mine from Palmer's room, shout out Stock. We have a saying called no trigger, no trade. Well, my no trigger, no trade is if it's not in my zone, I ain't taking it. The only time I'm able to come off of that rule is by utilizing the 200 EMA on either the 2 minute, the 5 minute, the 10 minute, or the 1 hour. So I guess a better way to explain this, right? So I've got my S&D zones. Well, the 9, the 20, and the 200 EMA are what guide me through those zones, along with obvious price action, interaction within those zones within price action. But the other aspect of my trading and how it ended up being so successful for me is specifically with Facebook or Meta or whatever the hell you want to call it now, is I'm not looking at the average true range or anything like that. I'm looking at what is the daily range of that ticker. So I learned early on after studying Facebook back in the day, and it still kind of holds it. It kind of jumps around a little bit more now. But Facebook was an average of 4 to 6% mover per day. Whether it was up or down, from the top to the bottom, it would run anywhere from 4 to 6% per day. So what I would do is, again, I wouldn't enter unless I was in a zone. Then I would look. So if I'm entering on a dip and rip, right? So if something's dipping down and dips into my zone and I'm entering there, I'm looking for, with Facebook anyway, I'm looking for zones at a 2%, a 4%, and a 6% before reversal. So I'm looking for a zone that's going to interact with those ranges because it's not like it's always going to make a 4% or 6% move right off the bell, right? It'll go to 2% or 4% normally, maybe even 2.5%, and then it'll reverse and go from there. So it's just kind of learning those tendencies, and then in studying those tendencies, again with Facebook, since that's the ticker that I predominantly trade, came under the realization that it loves the 200 EMAs.
Gotcha.
It's always, and it's for me again. I use the 2 minute, the 5 minute, and the 10 minute. So it's really, it depends on which one I think it's gonna jump at that point. I use a lot of pre-market stuff and things like that, but that's something that it loves. So like if I'm looking at zones pre-market and I'm looking for a dip, the old school dip and rip, if I see a 2 minute 200 sitting there, I'm more than likely willing to let it fall through that 200 if there's a 5 minute 200 sitting in a demand zone. And again, it's always different. You never know what's going to happen, and you're always looking at pre-market action, or if it's already above the 2 and the 5 minute 200, and the 10 minute 200 is above and it's sitting in a supply zone, best believe I'm going to take calls. I'm going to run into that 200 and I'm going to flip it and I'm going to full port that bitch down.
Let's go.
So it's just, again, it's learning those tendencies and things of that nature. And that's essentially what I did with Facebook. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't work 100% of the time, but it works enough that the gains far outweigh the losses.
Right. No, 100%.
So when it came to this whole, some people called it a small account challenge or whatever you want. I didn't call it that. I didn't want to call it that because it's not what it was really. But essentially the goal was, okay, I'm starting with $1,500. So I want to focus on my rules and really just kind of keep my discipline in check and let's make sure I'm following it. So that's what I did. I started, like I said, it was May 5th or May 4th, whatever it was, with $1,500. So outside of the basic no trigger, no trade rules and following my basic trading and how I trade, the other rules that I had in place was, and I should probably preface this with, part of the other reason why I wanted to do this is, whether it's on FinTwit or in whatever Discord you're in, right? There's not a Discord room that you can go into that you don't see somebody say, my account is too small. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I got so tired of hearing it.
Right.
That after a few days, then I'm like, all right, I'm doing this. You know what? Screw it. So I did. I contacted Maple and I contacted Palmer and I said, hey guys, this is kind of what's going on right now. And, I'm just going to start tracking this thing every day so that we can show all these guys that are saying that they can't do it, that you can do it. If you quit trading like an idiot, focus on discipline and rules, it can be done, and it can actually be done. I'm not going to say easily, but it can be done easily if you know what the hell you're doing instead of just jumping into some random crap. So, I specified one ticker, $1,500. Here's the rules. Let's go. So the other set of the rules that I was referring to was, so for the first week, the max position I was allowed to take per trade was 3 contracts. So I'm somebody who scales in. I don't. I've dabbled with slapping the ask at a certain point and just letting it go. But the issue that a lot of people don't like to talk about when it comes to whether it's an S&D zone or any other kind of zone, right? A zone is a zone, which means there's a top and there's a bottom to it. Well, the zones ain't perfect and they're never going to be perfect. So that's why I truly believe in scaling in. One, it's going to give you the best cost average, obviously. But you never know where that zone is truly going to possibly reverse or interact with the strongest point or whatever. I'm to the point where my zones are fairly accurate, pretty accurate actually, but you still never know, right? I mean, how many times do you try to scale into a zone and that damn thing only fills a quarter of the zone and takes off?
Right.
right? So I mean, and so you never get full position. It's 9 times out of 10 you're not going to get a full position of it. So, so I'm, I was big on scaling in. So one contract wasn't going to be enough. So scaling in at 1 to 3 contracts. For me, I'm a dollar amount person. So, and I'm also a cheap bastard. So I have a hard time spending $200, $300 on a contract. I just do. I don't know why. I just don't like it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, I mean, my average contract, which makes sense for the account size being $1,500, my average, I wouldn't buy a contract if it was over 100 or $150. So I would focus on a strike price that is feasibly going to move. That was around, $1 to $150. Usually probably range in the $130, $135 range.
Gotcha.
So you're always going to be, especially on a ticker like Facebook that has the range that it has. That's a pretty decent out of the money contract right there, especially on a Monday or Tuesday. If that thing's sitting at $200, well, you're not getting a 5 call for $150. That's more like $450. So I'm buying 210s, 215s, sometimes 220s. Just looking for the move itself, right? But still being able to get into the play with the ticker that I know. So the general rule was that first week, 1 to 3 was the max contract amount. On Thursdays and Fridays, I gave myself the leeway to go up to 5, just because contracts are cheaper, right? So it started there, had a really good first week. Second week came in, and now we're going to up the game a little bit. So instead of 1 to 3, now I'm going 3 to 5. So in the same situation, the dollar amount of the contracts never change for me anyway. They don't. So that second week it was okay. Monday through Wednesday, 3 to 5. Thursday and Friday, I gave myself a little bit more leeway to up it to 7. Again, cheaper Thursdays and Fridays, so you have the ability to do it. Going to the next week, that 3 to 5 now goes to 5 to 7. Thursdays and Fridays, I allowed it to 10. And then the last week, it was 7 to 10. And then since it was the end of the month, the last 2 days, I was trying to cap myself at 10. I think I broke that rule once. But I stuck within those strict rules. So, part of scaling in and part of this process as a zone trader is when you're scaling in, proper entry, right? Anybody who tells you anything about contracts other than entry is one of the most important things, don't know contracts or what the hell they're talking about. If you don't have a good entry, I hate the word thesis, so I won't use it. If your thought process was right, then your thought process was right. But if your entry sucked, then your thought process doesn't matter.
Exactly.
I learned that the hard way early on, where I would jump into a trade before it got to my zone because I'm afraid it's going to turn around too quick. I'm afraid it's not going to get the whole zone, so I want to make sure I get in. Well, next thing you know, I'm entering in, 30, 40 cents before it hits my zone, and then it goes all the way to the bottom of the zone.
Right.
So, and then what happens from there, right? Then hopium kicks in, bag holding kicks in, and everything else. So, entry is just key. So for me, you have to be able to take that entry, and that's where the discipline came in for me. Was if it's not touching your zone, you're not entering. And early on, I would jump into it like the second it tapped the very top line, and I learned how to stop that. And don't get me wrong, sometimes price action will push you to do that, but at the end of the day, it's going to come back to a discipline thing. But anyway, so from start to finish, from the very first day I started it to the day before last, I did not have one red day at all. I was green straight across the board. It was actually a phenomenal. It was my second best run ever. So it was 16. We went back and looked at it. It was 16 trading days from start to finish. I didn't trade the last 2 days of the month, and it was 15 straight days green. My biggest stretch before that was 43 days straight. But it was, I mean, we took it from $1,500. It was actually, technically it was $1,486 or something like that, to just over 1,200 or 12 grand.
Wow.
The P&L showed like 11.4, but I actually made, I made 2 withdrawals on it. I pulled $500 out of it one day and then like 644 like a week later or something like that, just to even out numbers. And then the last day came, which I've got no problem talking about. I talked about this when I gave a similar session in the House of Stacks.
Right.
So the last day was, I believe it was a Friday. I could be wrong, but I believe it was a Friday. I was still in my office. I was still working, and bell goes off, and I start scaling in. And so I should probably mention this. So when I was still at my office, I had to trade with Webull Web. So I wasn't able to download the desktop software. And
okay.
Yeah, so Webull Web is a little interesting. It automatically defaults to certain entries and things like that. And you can change it in the settings, but it automatically defaults back every time you log in. So before the bell, I'm always trying to load up, the couple contracts I'm looking at, just like the average person would on their desktop. Well, somehow, and I didn't realize it till after, but somehow I was trying to scale in 5 contracts at a time, and my max contract was going to be 20 for my full position.
Right.
Because I was still trying to follow my rules within reason. Well, somehow I didn't realize it till after, but right. So I start scaling in, and pretty quickly the trade starts to go against me. So I went to go cut, and somehow I had 250 contracts.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So somehow, when I thought I was scaling in at 5 contracts each, for a total of 25, I was scaling in at 50 contracts each. So I fat fingered a 0 in there somewhere.
Holy shit.
And didn't realize it because, again, I was focused on the chart. I was just clicking the button, buy.
Yeah.
And the second. So I've gotten pretty good with my mental stops, and I don't necessarily exit a position if it goes right out of my zone, unless it just knifes out of the zone. If it knifes out, then I'm marketing out and the whole shot.
Right.
But I've gotten good with it to the point where I wait for the candle to close, so to prevent wicking out. Right, everybody's worst nightmare is getting wicked out and the damn thing running.
Yes.
So, it gets to the bottom of the zone and realize, you know what? I don't like the look of this. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. These were cheap. It's Friday. No big deal. And I go to cut it, and I'm like, wait a minute. What's that extra 0 there? And I mean, like the 10 seconds it took me to kind of like gather my brain to realize, yeah, you have way too many contracts there. It just took off. So I marketed it out, and in that one trade, in 17 seconds, I lost, I believe it was $8,900.
Oh my God, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it sucked, but it is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, it was my fault. I fat fingered it somehow.
Right.
But it freaking sucked, dude. I literally watched an entire month of work go down the drain in 17 seconds. And the funny thing about it was, you can probably hear it in my voice now, and this is something that I will tell most people that are trying to make it in this game. If you're listening to me talk about that now, I mean, that was less than 3 weeks ago. It was 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
You can probably hear it in my voice. At the end of the day, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't care. I mean, does it suck? Sure. But you know what? Somehow I caused the failure. Yeah, it's on me.
100%.
So the worst part is it's not the first time I fat fingered. Luckily, I did it once on accident, and it ended up being the biggest day I've ever had in trading. from a fat finger mistake, and so it is what it is. But luckily, I didn't. The old diesel, like from a year ago, would have held on to that son of a bitch. It would have had all the hopium in the world to bring it back down.
For sure.
And I guess, you know, but
Yeah.
you know what? I'd rather have the $4,000 to trade with the next day than nothing to trade with the next day.
Yeah, that's a really great mindset. I think a lot of you guys should take note of that in chat. So there's one question I just want to touch on from earlier from XTCOs in chat. It says, at Diesel
Sure.
Trades, have you ever set limit sells that estimate where your options should price based on zones? So do you set limit sells based on maybe the options chart or something like that?
I don't normally know. So one of the things that I learned early on with options is you can't ever predict where that number is actually going to fall, right? Between theta and delta and everything else, and anybody, you know, you could see a slow stair stepper up and the chain moves slow. Right. You see a parabolic move and that thing jumps $150 in 5 seconds. So same on the stop side. That's why I don't set a hard stop personally, because you don't really know how it's going to interact with the underlying chart. I won't say that I've never set limit sells, because I have, right? I'll set where, I guess here's the best way for me to explain this from my trading and the way I trade. I don't normally do it because I trade based off of a chart, not off of a dollar amount or a percentage amount.
Got you.
My P&L is not on my screen. The only thing I have in the screen is the amount of the position that I'm in and the average price. And to be fair and completely honest, I don't have the mathematical brain wave to be able to figure out how much I made off of every contract by looking at my average price in comparison to what it is.
Right.
So I sell the charts. But again, a weird part of my trading is, I don't even know if I'd call it weird, but one of the things that's made me successful within my trading is I'm a zone to zone trader, meaning normally I buy in one zone and they will sell in another. Very rarely will I sell in between. So that's just kind of the way it goes, I guess.
Gotcha.
I mean, I'll set a limit sell once in a great while, maybe as like a, you know, if I'm sitting in a position where I want to get rid of 5 at, you know, to 25 cents or whatever, then I'll set it 25 cents from average price, but it doesn't really happen very often, to be honest with you.
Got you.
I look for those bigger parabolic moves where I can get the IV spikes in there and sell off into that.
Yes.
Stuff like that. Like I'm not it's going to go for high day, I'm going to sell it off at high day. I don't do that kind of stuff. It's just not my style.
Yeah, for sure. That's one thing I like to preach too, is I'll sell on those premium pushes. I'm off the 3 minute. I know you're on the 2 and the 5, but I'm kind of the same way, because sometimes too with the theta, right? Like you might get a bigger move in that premium push than you'd get reaching that same price if it took longer, right?
Exactly. Yeah, theta can kick your ass.
Yeah, no,
real quick.
Definitely. We're moving towards the end here, but got a few more questions for you before we look to start wrapping things up. What are some maybe tips and tricks that you could give out to someone who has a small account and just isn't profitable? You know, like maybe they've tried a bunch of different strategies and they're just still not profitable, maybe down on their luck and not feeling very good about trading right now. What are some tips and tricks to kind of like get your head reset and kind of get your trading strategy back in the game?
That's a good question. So, you know, I think the first thing is, and I get that it's harder as a new trader, but you have to identify a system and a strategy that's going to work for your personality. I think that's extremely important. It's, you know, a lot of these guys, yeah, they'll jump around and they'll go to different rooms and they'll watch different videos, and that's great, right? But understand that there is such a thing as overeducation.
Right.
you can watch a million different strategies, but if your brain isn't grasping them, which it's not gonna at first, you've got to find what strategy fits your personality, and that took me a long time even. Then from there, the next thing that I would implore anybody and everybody to do is pick one ticker. Pick one. There's no reason to stare at 17 different freaking charts on a screen and wait for one to get, we hear a lot about A+ setup. I call bullshit.
Let's go.
Sorry, I do. It's my A+ setup isn't your A+ setup.
No, you're right. You're totally right.
Right?
Yeah.
So what I would tell you, what works for me anyway, I look for the trade to enter. Now, mind you, I trade the same stock every day. I look for the trade to enter that fits my strategy, which is the biggest R&R possibilities. Right? I'm not going to take a trade like today. QQQ was a good example today.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It pops up at the bell. It goes for pre-market high. It's got pre-market high, the top of a supply zone that it opened underneath, barely underneath, but it's still open underneath it. Top of a supply zone, the 200 EMA, and pre-market high.
Mm-hmm.
That's 3 levels of resistance I ain't messing with.
Right.
So I will take my R&R chances. I'm going to take it off that 2-minute 200 and pre-market high. And I'm going puts on it, and I slap the shit out of it.
100%. As soon as we
To
started
me,
getting those lower highs too were very telling today.
Yeah, it took a couple minutes there in the beginning. What was it, 15, 20 minutes for the first initial dump? But
yes,
again, when you have to look at pre-market action, and you have to, like, for me, it's a little bit easier again because of the S&D that I use. But I see 3 high levels of resistance directly above where it's going to open at. Well, the likelihood of it getting off through all those, at least on that first pop up, are slim and none, more often than not, right? Even after 3 days of dump off, like we've seen. So it's at some point, the other thing that I will implore new traders to do, and a lot of traders are going to laugh at me for this and say that I'm an idiot and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and they're probably right. But I will tell you this: use a little bit of common sense when it comes to things.
Right.
For me personally, like I'll be upfront now to everybody. I actually thought we were gonna have a bigger run up today before the dump. I really did. When you see the sell-offs the way we have, I get you got FOMC coming up. You know what? Drown out all the noise. Drown out FinTwit. Drown out, someone's going long this, someone's going short this. I can promise you right now, and I've said it. I said it earlier in the Discord, and I've said it on Twitter quite a few times. There's nobody out there that actually knows what's going to happen, and don't fucking believe them if they say that they do.
100%.
Nobody. You got people screaming, "Oh, Meta's going to $50 in the next 2 weeks." Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll bet my account against your account that ain't going to happen.
Right.
And I bet you, and then I'll double down on it and prove to you that how sorely wrong you are. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And you have to use common sense with some aspects of it.
Oh, for sure. I just want to point out to chat, if anyone has any questions before we wrap up here, please feel free to type them in chat. I'll be taking kind of a Q&A at this point if you guys want to type it out and ask some stuff. Yes, this is recorded, and this will be going on YouTube as well. So if you'd like, you can also say hi YouTube in chat. It's up to you.
You should put a disclaimer up there on the Twitch channel. No interviews are recorded.
Yes, none. Okay, awesome. So you primarily trade Meta. How is that kind of game changing for your strategy? And does your strategy work with other tickers as well?
The strategy definitely works with other tickers, just simply from the standpoint of it's supply and demand.
Gotcha.
right? You've got I mean, the 920 EMAs, those run through everything. But to me, one of the more important aspects of it is the 200. Now, Meta is a ticker that respects the 200 on multiple levels. But to me, the 200 is the same thing as VWAP, right? The 200 and VWAP are both a bounce or rejection point EMA. That's what they are. They're a bounce and rejection point indicator. So can it work? Yes. Does that mean that every other ticker respects the 200 to that level? Probably not. I use the same strategy. The main tickers that I realistically, Facebook is 99% of my trading. I do trade SPY over QQQ. I find SPY to have a lot more liquidity personally.
Okay.
I did trade the Qs for a while, but I traded the Qs because I traded Apple for a long time, and the Qs and Apple obviously ran together 9 times out of 10. So if I was taking calls on Apple, I could take calls on Qs and then just double it up.
Right.
Now the downside to Meta is Meta doesn't necessarily follow either one. You'd like to think that it would, but it kind of jumps back and forth. So you'll see in multiple occasions where SPY will be dumping and out of nowhere Q is running up and Facebook's kind of somewhere in the middle, right? But does it work on other stuff? Absolutely. You just have to find, what personally myself, I would tell you have to find what other indicators run with that particular ticker. But S&D is S&D. There's nothing's going to beat S&D. You're buying where the market makers are buying, you're selling where the market makers are selling. And on a side note, since I said the word market makers, you're absolutely correct on that tweet you sent out the other night.
Right.
If any of you think a market maker is going after your peddly 20 cents, you're out of your damn mind. Ain't happening.
That was crazy, man. He's like, you sound like a new trader. I was like, bro, what are you talking about? The market makers are not hunting your stop loss, bro. They're not hunting your 4 contracts on AMD calls.
Hell
all
no.
right.
The market makers could give 2 shits
Right.
about a retail trader's 3 measly contracts.
Yeah.
but you know what? I mean, not to take this out longer, but the other funny thing that I find amusing about it, and I've noticed it a lot more lately within Discords and within FinSquid is, everyone's talking about, oh yeah, the market makers are coming for your options. They're coming for this, they're coming for that. Last I checked, common shares is what drives the chart. They're not coming after your options. They're coming after the asshole who's trying to sell 20,000 shares 3 cents higher than he should.
Right.
That's the guy they're going after.
Yeah.
They're not coming after your options. They don't care about your options.
No,
but I find that amusing.
Yeah, for real, dude. Question from Lauren in chat. Does supply and demand work the same as support and resistance?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now I guess I should probably, again, my supply and demand, so I use basic supply and demand from the 1 hour time frame. However, realistically speaking, it's, again, because I use so many zones, I use the zones in between as a way to gauge that support and resistance, right? So I watch price action going into every zone that I have. Now, every zone that I have marked is a supply and demand zone. So if you look at, you look at 100 screen right now, I see 4 or 5 zones up there, right? Whereas if one of my charts was up on that screen, which 100, I'm sure if you looked in House of Stack, actually, yeah, if you go into House of Stack and look under charts, you'll see one in there. From this morning, actually, that I popped in for Facebook that just shows 3 zones. But usually I've got, it is under Skilled Floor, I believe.
Gotcha. Okay.
But you can see on the picture, there's probably 4 or 5 more zones above it. So those are all 1 hour supply and demand zones. It doesn't mean it's necessarily going to come out of that zone, though, right? It's just I'm watching price action and how it's going to interact within those zones, which absolutely ends up turning into support and resistance. There's no doubt. Right there. Yep. So you can see, right, standard supply and demand, it's one demand zone, one supply zone. Now, what I do is when I'm throwing my charts together, I'm looking, one, I don't like being caught by surprise, right? So if it breaks a zone, I want to know where it's headed to next without having to look left and start charting out a bunch of other crap. I want to know where it is. So now the funny thing about Meta is, and anybody in the House of Stacks will tell you this, I have not recharted Meta in 2 months. It's still using the same zones.
That's crazy. Isn't that awesome how it works out like that?
But it is. And that was an argument that I have with some of the bigger S&D traders like Carmine, who say that, it's got to be a fresh zone. Well, yeah, I guess we have a different definition on a fresh zone, because unless it's a new high or a new low, it ain't a fresh zone because it's been used before.
Right.
Zones are reused over and over again, and it's a proven fact. And anybody who doesn't believe it, I'll send you hundreds and hundreds of charts and prove it. It's just a question of learning price action, which I'm definitely not. I'm not the greatest at price action, but I look for tweeter tops and tweeter bottoms on the 5 minute and things like that to help with deciding if I'm going long or short or entering or selling and things of that nature. But I use the indicators along the way to help keep me in longer. That's all.
Yeah, no, for sure. One thing I wanted to ask you as well was when you're scaling into a position, how do you decide, how do you make the decision between scaling into a position versus worrying about stopping out?
So when it's going into my zone, if I've decided to enter that particular zone for whatever reason, right? Whether it's again with Facebook, I use range as a big factor. So I'll scale into the zone, and whatever my position is at that point. If I'm going 10 contracts, 20 contracts, or whatever. Let's say I'm going 20 contracts. Well, I'll scale in. Well, if it's probably 25, I'll go 5. Next position will be 10. Next position will be 10. So I'll scale in 3 times, and I try to go, top of the zone, middle of the zone, bottom of the zone, or some aspect of that. And then realistically, my stop is normally if the candle closes out of my zone, I'm looking for a technical stop of some sort around there, but I'm also gauging price action, which is why I don't use hard stops, because again, it's one of those situations where, the 2 minute may show that it's just running out the bottom, and then the 5 minute shows, it's wicking out of the bottom. So on my screen at all times, and again, kudos back to Palmer on this one. Again, I trade the 2, 5, and 10. The 2, 5, and 10 are always on my screen simultaneously at the same time. So I'm seeing the bigger picture while I'm watching the smaller picture to gauge price action. Are we starting to see price action looking like reversals? Are we starting to see upper wicks or lower wicks or whatever? Is there, what kind of resistance is above? Is this a gap zone in comparison to a regular zone? Those are all key elements going into it. So realistically, I try to stick to a stop of, my will stop realistically like 10 to 15%. I don't always hold myself to that. I'm known to go 25% deep red, thinking or just watching price action, seeing range and other aspects that I calculate into it, expecting a reversal. I don't like to waste my buying power. So like Maple, for example, Maple uses what's called the 84% rule, right? Mm-hmm. So he'll get stopped out, and then immediately he'll turn around and he'll jump right back into it. I personally, myself, it's a great strategy. It really is, because it can save you in a lot of cases. For me, if I like price action enough where I'm willing to stay in there and get a little bit red, I'm okay with that.
Right.
If it ends up going against me, then it's on me. But at the end of the day, you have to be okay being red if you ever want to be green.
Gotcha.
No trade are you ever going to enter in where you're green the second you enter it. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Very.
So it's just being smart with it, right? So if it's blasting out of the zone, well then yeah, I'm cutting it.
Right.
My backstop to everything realistically is, I learned from Rodessa is 5-minute trailing stop. Right. So if it gets out of the zone and I'm still kind of holding on to it and it keeps going with no pullback, then I'm out. If it comes back down, and obviously there's other aspects, right? Market sentiment and so on and so forth. But for me, I'm willing to lose 25%. It is what it is. It's part of the game. But for me, it's more price action than anything else.
Gotcha. Okay. Another quick one from Lauren. How many days back are you using the same zones?
How many days back?
For me personally, I just don't delete them until they get in the way and there's too many, and then I'll delete some. But that's just me. Right.
So again, kind of like how I just said. So meta, I've been using the same zones for over 2 months. I haven't recharted. I haven't done anything.
Perfect.
Now the zones that it's currently in right now, those are from over 2 years ago.
Wow, let's go. That's so crazy.
Yep. I mean, that's how far back you had to go to find the price action.
Right.
Now, if you want to look at it, here's a jacked up one. And Webull, you can't do it on, but for TOS users, look at Amazon right now. Amazon's crazy, right? So it does the split, and those that use Webull know that you basically take off every damn indicator just to even see price action for current time frame.
Right.
Well, TOS shows that Amazon was at $120 a week ago. Okay. It's really weird.
That's weird.
So here's the messed up part. So I charted it yesterday, and I charted 5 zones up, 5 zones down, based off of that old price action that it's saying is there that actually wasn't, obviously, and it's holding up. The zones are holding up. So I haven't quite figured that part out on why the hell that's happening.
Okay.
But it's weird. It shows price action around the current price action it's at from like 2 weeks ago. When 2 weeks ago it was at $2,500.
That is trippy.
Doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But I don't know if they found a way to some algorithm that kind of moves it around, or if they went and pulled price action from when Amazon was trading at $100. I don't know. But all I know is it had all these levels there, so I was screwing around with it. So I charted it, and I checked it today, and every damn one of those levels held. It was really weird.
That's awesome, though. So have you ever heard of Wyckoff's pattern? Notoriously Gentleman in chat is wondering if you have any opinions on it. For me personally, I've never heard of it or used it.
No idea.
Okay. I just looked it up on the side here. It seems somewhat complicated, to be honest. I'm sure it's not as good to use, but it's just not something that I or Diesel have used, unfortunately. But thank you for the question.
Well, and I will also say this, and I don't know if this is around the same terms or not, but I don't trade patterns. Okay. I don't say, oh look, that's a Head and Shoulders. Oh look, that's this or that's that. I've never been somebody who recognizes patterns very well. I see flags. I get them mixed up with ascending triangles. And frankly, at the end of the day, I'm not a breakout trader, so I don't care.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, exactly.
I just don't. I don't play in that crap.
No, 100%. Okay, yeah. So we're hitting about an hour and 20 minutes into the episode. I think we'll wrap things up with one more question. If nobody in chat has any more questions, if you do, you can punch them in right now while I'm asking this one. But I just kind of want to wrap things up with a little bit of inspiration. What would you say to a trader who's maybe down on their luck and is ready to quit for good? What would you what would you say to them, basically, is the question.
It's actually funny because I actually got that question about a half hour before I came on. So,
No way.
So the first thing I would tell you is it takes time. I'm far from a perfect trader. I've got my bad days like anybody else does. I break rules like everybody else does. If you've got the time into this, then you just need to take a step back, scale down, go paper trade, go do whatever to get your mind right. But more importantly, the biggest piece of advice that I would give any trader that's struggling in any way, shape, or form is look in the mirror. I can promise you that you are the problem. It's not the chart. It's not market makers. Nobody is causing you to lose money but you.
Right.
Look in the mirror. Be real with yourself. Understand what you do understand and understand what you don't understand, and put in the time to get better. Nothing will be better for you than screen time, and that's just the honest to God truth. I didn't believe that cliche until I kind of put myself through it.
It's so true. Man.
It really is. Something that I told, I shouldn't say I told, I challenged a bunch of guys, pretty much the entire room, honestly, in the House of Stacks was, again, pick one ticker, pick one strategy, master that strategy and master that ticker.
Right.
Once you've done that, then move on and add a little bit more to it. And I'll tell you one way to start that process. So, I'll challenge everybody who's listening to this now or who's here on the stream. Pick 10 tickers. Any 10 tickers, it does not matter. If you're a large cap option trader, pick 10 large cap tickers that you don't trade, that you will likely never trade. Chart them every damn day. At the end of the day, go back, review your charts for whatever your strat might be. Adjust what you have to adjust. I promise you, you do that every day. I challenge those guys to do it for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Do it for 30 days, do it for 60 days, do it for 90 days. It doesn't matter. You need the screen time. The first thing you need to do is understand what you're looking at with those charts. Once you've understood what you're looking at, then the discipline and the psychology comes in to take the trade based off of what you've learned. And that is the biggest aspect that most traders struggle with is, not having the confidence and so on and so forth. And to, the fellow House of Stacks guys that are in here now, they're going to hear me say this and they're going to laugh. Once you've charted all this stuff and you've learned it, then don't be a bitch. Take the damn trade. It's the only way you're going to learn it, right? And more so than anything else, everybody wants to, everyone, I need a Lambo. I need this. Man, screw your Lambo.
Right. Right.
Screw your Lambo. How about being able to go to work for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and being able to spend the rest of the time with your kids?
Yeah, man, that's it.
My God, my kids are 19, 18, 15, 11, and 8. My older three, I miss their entire life. You know why? Because somebody told me I had to go work 40, 50, 60 hours a week from the time I was 18 to the time I was 60 so that I can enjoy the last 5 years of my life.
Yep.
Now think about what I just said. All that to enjoy the last 5 years of your life, 10 years of your life. Whoever came up with that ignorant mindset needs to be fucking shot, hung, and drugged through the fucking streets.
Twitch, I don't condone these messages, but yes.
Honest to God truth, right? But seriously, you guys, I'm 43 years old and I'm just now figuring this shit out.
Yeah, man. No, honestly,
Okay,
preach it.
most people getting into this game, right? Most of you guys are young, 18, 24 years old.
You are legendary.
Use this as the ability to live your life. Do what you got to do. Figure this stuff out. If you can't figure it out, then don't give up until you do. But the key to it is discipline. Don't give up. Keep pushing forward. $5 green is a lot better than $30 red. All right. It does not matter the dollar amount. Remove money from your thought process. It's got nothing to do with money. Learn the process and the money will come. That much I guarantee you. If you learn how to do this, whatever strategy you use and whatever mindset you use, you learn how to do this, the money will come. It will just come.
I don't think I could have said it better than that. Very well said. And thank you so much for coming on the show, bro. We do have one more question coming in late from Tico's here. Any thoughts
Sure.
on how to start charting on something like Facebook with all those zones? Seems a bit overwhelming.
Ooh, so right now everything is kind of overwhelming, right? I mean, we've officially, as of 4 hours ago, as all the experts like to say, we officially entered into a bear market because we've dropped just under 22% or whatever the hell it is. Facebook isn't exactly a ticker that I would normally recommend. It really kind of depends on where you are in your trading journey, okay? If you're a newer trader that's still trying to gauge things, I will give you 3 tickers that you need to start looking at. The first one is Apple. Apple is Apple. I mean, Apple and Tesla run the market. They just do. For those that don't know it, look into it. Apple and Tesla run this market. So newer traders, I would be looking at Apple. I'd be looking at AMD. I hate AMD personally.
Me too.
I've just never had good luck with it. It's just
Same.
crazy wiki, and but a lot of people have success with it once you figure it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And another one that I would honestly start looking at is Amazon. It's at a price point right now. Amazon, I'll be honest with you guys. Meta has been my bread and butter for 8 months, really more like 6 months, I guess. Amazon's going to start getting in that fold.
Yes, I completely agree. I've been obsessed with Amazon ever since the split.
Well, and here's my words of wisdom that you should never listen to, okay? Because I just told you guys you shouldn't listen to anybody who thinks they know anything about this market. First of all, I don't know a damn thing about this market. I don't care if it goes down. I don't care if it goes up. I don't pretend to know if it's going to go up or down, but I'm going to tell you this. In my humble opinion, in 3 weeks, you've got the Google split. Shortly thereafter, you're going to have another Tesla split. You're going to have the 3 biggest dogs in the valley all trading around the same price points.
That's very
Talk
true.
about liquidity in the market. Holy hell.
That is actually
Right?
sick.
Everybody was excited. Everybody was excited for Amazon to split. Well, Amazon did what most people thought it would do. Right? Look what happened on day one. The split happens and everybody in retail jumps in. It runs up $3 and then it just nosedives. Right? Now, you have to take it as a grain of salt, right? Because Amazon didn't just nosedive, the whole damn market did. So take it with a grain of salt. But again, I try to put some kind of common sense into everything. For me personally, and this is just my thoughts, I actually got very excited today because I was about to enter into Amazon this morning when it got done like 101.80 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, myself, I don't see Amazon ever dropping below $100.
Right.
Call me stupid, but I don't see what is essentially the biggest company in the world falling below the biggest psych level in the world for a large cap option.
Right.
I just don't see it. Now, could it happen? Sure. Again, I don't know shit about the market at the end of the day, but I don't see that happening. So, but yeah, newer guys, Apple, AMD, I would definitely start charting Amazon. MU has been another good one. You have to be able to buy contracts for an account that you actually can afford, right? Those are the ones you should focus on. So those are the ones I would chart if you're looking to actually trade them. Facebook and Tesla are ones that you can chart just a chart. I wouldn't recommend, personally, I wouldn't recommend most people getting into Facebook yet. You have to keep in mind with Facebook, I've heard everybody screaming garbage company this, garbage company that, and that's great. I could care less if they're a good company or a bad company. I don't really care. But again, people are misdirecting things, right? They're still one of the biggest companies in the world. They still, like I had not an argument, but a conversation with a few guys between a couple of other Discords talking about, Facebook's dead. That platform is dead. You're right. Facebook's been dead forever, but they still own the biggest freaking social media company in the world that everybody uses, which is Instagram.
Yep.
It's all under one umbrella, but nobody thinks about that, right?
Right.
So use some common sense with some of this stuff. Could it go to $100? Sure. Would I bet my house on it? Nope. Not me.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Thank you, chat, for being a part of this conversation. Episode 1 of season 3 of Trader Spotlight. Thank you so much, Diesel Trades, for coming on the show today. Is there anything that you think we missed, or anything you want to, anybody you want to shout out, or some last kind of wrap up moments?
Honestly and obviously, big shout out to the House of Stacks and Maple, Palmer, and the Skunk King Calls room. Those are my homes. I would not be anywhere without Maple and Palmer, Lunar, Rodessa, and guys, honestly, just stay the course, man. This is not an overnight thing. You're not going to get rich quick. Put the work in. The results will come. You have to be patient, and just daily progression is what you're looking for.
Right.
That's it. At the end of the day, daily progression is what you're looking for. Don't let anybody tell you can't do this. If I can do this, trust me, you can do this.
Let's go.
100%. You can do it. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Of course, man. Of course. You're a legend. Diesel Trades out on Twitter, people. That's DeezelTrades. Go hit him with the follow. He's in House of Stacks and the Skunk. What's it called? Skunk Gang? Skunk King? What's it called? That one?
It is called Skunk King Calls.
Skunk King Calls. Discord by Palmer, who's Palmer and Maple have obviously been on the show. I think they have episodes on my YouTube channel if you want to check that out as well. And if you like the content, I'd appreciate the follows. We're getting close here on the channel to 4,000 followers. We're at 3,915, so I appreciate it if you're enjoying the content. You'll get lots more me the rest of the week. So thank you, Diesel Trades, for coming on once again, brother, and we'll see you out in the market tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Have a good day, guys. Thank you again.
Of course. Have a great night.
You too.
All right, later. Okay, guys. Yes, sir. How was that? Get some claps going in chat. Yes, sir. All right, guys, that was Diesel Trades. Thank you so much for joining me tonight for Season 3 of Trader Spotlight. There's only going to be 8 episodes, 8 great traders coming on. Stay tuned. I will be announcing the episodes in my Discord and out on Twitter. Yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you for joining. That was awesome, wasn't it? Diesel's the man, dude. Hell yeah. Some tough love. We'd love to see it. Yes, sir. All right, guys. Have an awesome night. I will leave you with Diesel's thoughts wrapped up in your head. And Hunter has the big weights in the bag. You know your boys got to do it to him. Yes, sir. Just the casual weights back there. Hey, yes, sir. Thank you. Of course. Yo, Ticos, thank you for the 6 months, brother. Thank you for the first time chat, Denali. All right, guys. I'll see you in the next one. I'm your host, 100 Million. Let me put on my ending song here, and we'll call it a wrap. Thank you guys for joining. Slap on Jason by the midnight. Have a great night, guys. I love you. We'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye. 100 out.